The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question, without notice, is to the Treasurer. I refer the Treasurer to his statement that a number of ministers, and I quote, "don't have as ambitious a program of change as the Prime Minister and I have for them." I ask the Treasurer, besides Senator Button, were you also referring to the Minister for Finance, or the Minister for Transport and Communications, or Land Transport, or Shipping and Aviation Support, or Small Business and Customs, or perhaps your campaign manager, the Minister for Employment, Education and Training, or all of them?
The Honourable Treasurer.
Mr Speaker, I think the Shadow Treasurer ought to be worrying about his ambitions for change rather than worrying about ours, and including such thing as a fundamental re-examination of the reasons for your failure over 4 successive elections, and go to the policy issues. In fact, your phony fiscal policy at the last election and the one before, the absence of any wages policy which is in the slightest sense believable or credible, the absence of, as the Minister interjects, health care, the absence of any policy on national health, that is the abrogation of your responsibilities in policy in terms of health by the very clear statement that you had no health policy, the lack of any policy in relation to industry development, training or retraining, all of the key issues which matter to the way in which the nation functions. You do not have a set of credible policies. And so instead of applying yourself to that, you're up trying to ask a question which you think is about scoring even the cheapest and smallest political point, where in fact you score no point at all. All governments generate their own process of change. Well, certainly this government has, and the various impetus to those progresses of change, and this naturally comes from the leadership of the party and the government. Now, in this case, the Prime Minister, in my case, as the Senior Economic Minister, as the Treasurer, and in the case of the various substantial portfolio interests in the Expenditure Review Committee of the government, including, I might say, my colleague Senator Button, who has been the only industry minister in my memory ever, I believe, who's actually presided over falling levels of industrial protection in this country. The only one, and who did it on his own initiative and didn't need to be pushed and prodded and dragged along as you people were, and where you still fail. So the fact is, we generate our own enthusiasm, but at least we focus on real issues. What you've got to do is focus on why you've been beaten 4 times and why a fraudulent appeal for tax cuts, as I said yesterday, the return to Box Hill, this great thing for change. Hewson promises the visionary rule. Under his leadership, he'll tackle the tough decisions, and on the front page, to get those tough decisions, giving tax cuts to middle incomes, a real tough policy, handing out tax cuts. So why don't you get off your sort of questions that wouldn't even pass the muster at a young Liberal meeting, and get down to a bit of policy.